Good morning, everyone. My name is Oriola Odutoye. I'm a CDR carbon removal advocate here in Africa. I work at the OpenAir network. We are here to talk about youth prospects and youth perspectives on CDR opportunity in Africa. There's a lot of discourse going on in Africa about CDR. Africa is seen in many instances as a good place where CDR can really take off, and it's all well and good, but we are here to shed light on the social part, the human part of carbon efforts, carbon initiatives going on in Africa. Scaling CDR, it involves the usage of African resources. Resources in this instance might mean both people and both natural resource of which Africa is quite endowed with. Renewable energy, definitely, land, and geological storage. These are all like critical important components that need to be in place for CDR to be scaled globally, especially in Africa. To do this, it offers us an opportunity for us to unleash the potential, the latent and immense potential of talents in Africa on the continent. And that is why we are very excited about this opportunity. Youth comprise over 40% of Africa's population. In fact, 40% of Africa's population is less than 16 years old. So this is just to give you the sheer size, the scale of which Africa has the potential to grow literally from a demographic point of view. African youth from the Ichikowis Family Foundation. And African youth are 72% of African youth are actually concerned about climate change. And this is for good reason. In recent times, there has been in like the droughts in Kenya, in the Horn of Africa, it has been eating Africa disproportionately. So they are right to be concerned. When you look at it, 81% of African youths believe their government should be doing more to actually reduce carbon emissions. A large amount, or almost the entirety of the total population, is quite concerned about climate change. So we can see clearly that creating well-paying job economic opportunities is priority for African youth. Economic opportunities are of importance to them. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited in this field because over 66% of African youth believe that their country is creating a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. And when you go deep down, in some instances, like in a country like Rwanda, it's over 97%. So this just shows or just illustrates the potential or the latent power that is available for us to harness in CDR, just from a social perspective, from a population perspective. African youths are willing, they are able, they are ready to engage and to actually contribute to the growth of CDR opportunities on the continent. Right now, I'm going to speak to a diverse and interesting panelist of young Africans doing interesting and amazing things in carbon removal, in the carbon removal economy, the carbon removal space. We have them ranging from Kenya to the DRC, and it's quite an engaging and enlightening info session, and we would love if you could take part in it. So thank you for coming to this session. My name is Oriola. I'm a member of the Open Air community here in Lagos, Nigeria. I will basically run through of everybody we have here in this session. We have Caroline here, Caroline Kimani. She's a nature-based project developer. She works at Ecosecurities. We have Fiona. Fiona works at Octavia Carbon. She's a engineer. She's a product and electrical engineer. And finally, we have Mibilizi Kalombo, is the secretary of the Umuji Community Foundation, and is joined by members of the Nakivale settlement. So thank you all for coming to this session. So Caroline, Fiona, and Nakivale, could you please just tell us more about yourselves and what you do?
Thank you. Thank you, Oriola, for having us. It's a pleasure to engage in this discussion and then to just learn from my fellow panelists. So I'm Caroline Kimani. I'm a carbon developer at Ecosecurities, based in the Africa office in Nairobi. Ecosecurities is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, with 25 years experience in sourcing, developing, and financing carbon projects. What I do at Ecosecurities is coordinate a couple of projects in Africa and mostly on the nature-based side. So projects such as protection of forest, afforestation, reforestation activities, biochar, and other energy projects like water filtration and community-based improved cooking projects. And happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you, Caroline. Thank you. So we can quickly move on to Fiona.
Hello, my name is Fiona Mugambi. I'm an electrical and electronics engineer at Octavia Carbon. We are based in Nairobi, Kenya. What we build machines that capture CO2 from the air. And in my department, we basically ensure that the machine is powered and it's automated and all the control systems are working together.
Wow, that's great. Congrats on your recent fundraising for seed. So now we'll go to the Nakivale community. Could you just please introduce yourself to us, please?
Yeah, so thank you very much. It's called the Marius Iragi. So it's not very conversant with English, but he knows Swahili and French better. But he is an agronomy engineer, writer from DRC. Currently is the founder and the CEO of Umoja Community Foundation, with the general activity being regenerative agriculture, including other activities like youth empowerment trainings. We also have women leadership training. We also do permaculture, but we do all these with the three main objectives. And the first one is to improve seed security, also to help in the process of climate restoration and to make farmers self-empowered. Currently in Nakivale, we work with youth, with women, because we do a lot of training about new techniques of regenerative agriculture and the measures to reduce the carbon atmosphere. And soon we shall be launching our Biochar project, which is yet to start in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Wow, that's a full plate, and you guys are doing amazing works. So, okay, Caroline, so we want to just know, give us a general overview of, the spectrum of nature-based carbon removal options. We have people like Fiona and Octavia that are, working on the machines, I know the tech stuff, but I know Ecosecurities, you guys have a more nature-based approach. So you can just give us an overview of the various approaches in nature-based form of carbon removal.
Yeah, just to sort of define nature-based solutions here and nature-based carbon removal projects. Nature-based solutions or projects would generally be projects that protect or conserve, sustainably manage, and restore ecosystems. And then nature-based carbon removal projects will be projects that specifically remove carbon from the atmosphere. So in a way to create carbon sinks or enhance carbon sinks through nature. So such projects would be like afforestation or reforestation projects. So that is setting up new forests or reforesting degraded forests. It could also be regenerative agriculture, like what our friends in Uganda are doing. So that improves the capacity of the soil to sequester more carbon. It could also be biochar, again, which also enhances carbon sinks and also improves the soil ability to act as a carbon sink. It could also be other avenues like mangrove restoration, wetland restoration, just activities that act in line with nature to improve the capacity of nature to remove carbon from the atmosphere. So we at Ecosecurities, we do a wide range of such projects, including afforestation, reforestation, and that would be, planting a tree would, as a tree grows, it removes carbon from the atmosphere through processes such as photosynthesis. So that is why that would be considered a carbon removal project. We also have biochar projects, which we implement along with our implementing partners on the ground. Yeah. We also have regenerative agriculture or improved land management, such kinds of projects on the nature-based carbon removal side.
Like how we as African youths can key into these pathways, and how do you think we can participate, and not just participate, actually drive, economic growth or drive productivity?
opportunities for the youth or what the youth are already doing in that space. Over the years, we've seen, since nature-based solutions have come, I mean, they're not that old, but the youth have increasingly taken up that space to actively participate in carbon removal projects. And one of that is regenerative agriculture. We're seeing a lot of youth coming in and using the information space and the digital space, moving away from conventional and destructive agriculture into practices that work with nature. So whether it's climate smart agriculture, regenerative agriculture, permaculture, as mentioned. So the youth are continuously engaging in such activities and also taking advantage of information technology to sort of make such investments more interesting. We're also seeing a lot of activities, especially in the rangelands. In Africa, a lot of land area is mostly rangeland. So activities that improve grazing practices or improve grassland management or indigenous tree species in the rangelands. And this go a long way in improving the soil structure and improving the soil carbon. So acting as a nature-based removal activity. We're also seeing, apart from the rangeland restoration and agriculture, there are a lot of restoration through rewilding of degraded lands. So through afforestation and reforestation activities, reforestation of forests that have been degraded, reforestation of mangroves and wetlands. And a lot of youth are even mobilizing communities to be able to take up such activities, including agroforestry or farmer-managed natural regeneration. But given those activities that the youth are engaging in, there's still more that needs to be done to be able to encourage the youth or to provide more opportunities for the youth, especially to scale their ideas, to incubate their ideas, and so on, to be able to bring innovation and the use of technology such as remote sensing, drone technology, AI. So providing platforms to be able to exploit that space even better, to increase the carbon potential of Africa, which provides a huge potential for carbon removal globally. But it's exciting to see what the youth are doing and what more opportunities lie there for the youth.
Wow, thank you, Caroline. Thank you for that presentation. So what I was able to get from that, technology is actually playing a key role in youth participation in carbon removal, using these new forms of science to actually not embark on the old type of agriculture and the new model of constructive of climate friendly policies. So I might just ask a quick question here. What are like some of the, or what would you say is the major challenge so far you have faced at Ecosecurities, from your own point of view, promoting or scaling this adaptation of climate friendly agricultural practices? What do you think is preventing it from going mainstream?
Yeah, and it's a good question because given some of the complexities and barriers of entry into the carbon markets, I mean, we might benefit from more simplification of some of those processes that will ensure that the youth who do not have the privilege of so much resources are able to also tap into carbon finance. So just to answer that, one would be the complexities around carbon markets in terms of accounting for carbon and the entire process of registration of carbon projects to the monitoring aspect. And that requires capacity building, especially for the youth. Being a very new market, especially in Africa, a lot of capacity building needs to happen to be able to empower the youth, who make up really more than half of the African population, to be able to tap into the potential that youth and the expertise they could bring into the carbon markets. So capacity building, and a lot of this also have to do with the international policies or the international space in terms of carbon pricing. The fact that the nature-based carbon removal price at least the nature-based is not it's not a huge incentive for investors or for people just looking to get into the carbon markets. So a lot of those uncertainties would definitely or hopefully become better with time. But those are some of the barriers in terms of skill, because they're high cost also of investment. So they're huge costs of just putting together nature-based carbon removal, whether it's just an afforestation project. A lot of costs go into that. A lot of research or labor goes into that, even protecting and making sure that the carbon removals are permanent. So those are some of the challenges that the youth or anyone really might face in the carbon markets, but hopefully a lot of those complexities are being broken down. So I am a bit hopeful.
Wow, thank you so much, Caroline. Yeah, hopefully, those complexities go away. I personally know that the carbon markets, and it can be a quite confusing or intimidating place, especially for people just breaking into the industry. But thank you, Caroline. So right now, Fiona, if you don't mind, we will come on to you. We know Octavia, very young company making waves. Your CEO, Martin, we all know you. Thank you so much for all what you guys are doing, especially promoting dark. I think you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are the first dark machine in Africa, or at least East Africa.
Yes, in
Wow.
Kenya and Africa, yeah.
Hopefully a company does something in Nigeria soon. Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you could just give us a quick intro of your, just what you do. What actually drew you to JC? What drew you to Octavia?
I studied electrical and electronics engineering at the University of Nairobi. And here at Octavia Carbon, we are all young, actually. We are all below 30. And so we are 6 engineers, and then we have one business developer, and then we have our CEO and founder. Yeah, so how I landed into Octavia is it's basically just because of even just what I believe in as a person and the kind of networks and the kind of friends that I keep. So because of, I believe in meaningful work, essentially just work which has a lot of meaning, work which improves the livelihoods of those around me. And because of that, I have been able to get very good networks. So, and because of that, a very good friend of mine called Duncan, I was at home cooking, and then I just got a call. Hey, Fiona, we'd like you to solve a problem for us. And that's how I knew about Dark. And the next day, being told what Dark is and what is Octavia Carbon's role in it. And yeah, it was merely just a simple call of my fellow friend just wanting me to help them solve this engineering challenge. And 2 weeks later, we unveiled Africa's first dark machine, and it was such a proud moment for us.
Wow. And that's great. So you
Yeah.
kind of stumbled into the industry, but you're welcome. You're welcome. So
Yeah.
wow, thank you. So from an outside perspective, can you just give us maybe an insider's view into the level of interest, more particularly in climate technology among youths or among young engineers in Nairobi in Kenya, because this is not new, but it's still a relatively new field. So is this something quite popular? Is it something catching on? Or how do you see it playing, over time, as compared to something like what Caroline does, which, agriculture, more people might be able to relate to that. How do you see it from like a dark or an engineering perspective? Like engineering talents in Kenya, are they interested in such forms of technology?
Yeah. So the way it is here in Nairobi, even though we're called the Silicon Savannah, we have very talented engineers, very people who are really immersed into tech. However, there's still the problem of not so many people are conversant with climate tech. It's still a very, very new technology here in Kenya and Africa in its Africa as a whole. We are just like 6 months old, so that can let you know like how climate tech is very, very young here in Nairobi. As young engineers, we are very, very interested in tech and improving our lives and solving these problems. The talent is there, the innovation is there. What is really, really missing is the opportunity to apply this to apply these innovations. And, you know, Octavia being at the forefront of climate tech in Kenya and Africa in general, we are best situated to provide these opportunities to local talent. And take me, for example, I didn't know about DARC 3 months ago. And when I got the call, I was very, very excited to come and solve this engineering challenge and be part of the team. And also just in general, just Kenya's, solve climate change here at home.
Man, thank you, Fiona. You know, so wow, you guys are 6 months and you have made so much waves already. So that's nice.
Yeah.
That's good. So your team is rapidly growing.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. Now I'll go on to Marius and the community. I'll just ask a question. You guys have introduced yourselves earlier. So maybe at the beginning, you guys have spoken about what you do, and you know, very, very impressive work. A quick question I will ask is, you guys are actually embarking on a lot of innovative enterprises in the community. So my question is, how did this come about? How are you trying to grow, you know, this innovation? Because, you know, from the outside perspective, you know, your community, a lot of people might not look there as the first place where such, you know, innovation might come from. So how did this come about? What's like your background, your thought process, and how are you, you know, trying to spread this, you know, amazing efforts you guys are doing to other communities around you or individuals in your team?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Marius is so excited for this wonderful question. But also from his introduction, he earlier said that he is an agronomy engineer. He is also a specialist in soil science and climate. So after coming from DRC, the country of origin, by reaching here, he found, yes, farming it was subsistence farming. It was the main economic activity that was taking place around. However, the farmers here were using poor methods of farming that in most cases were destructive to the environment, and also the agricultural yields were also low. So based on what he studied and his technical know-how, he had to look for the ways of sensitizing the farmers and teach them the best method of farming, because that is the major economic activity that's taking place here. So he came up with an idea now of initiating some contacts, and then he began with getting a contact from Foundation for Climate Restoration, later went to Phoenix Functions, later, and until he came to meet OpenAir. But even here, the refugees were also using the local method of producing Biochar, and this method was bringing a lot of methane gas, and that methane gas is very harmful to the atmosphere. But now, with the grace of Christ, today or the next time, we shall be having the Biochar project, which does a lot of work in the reduction of carbon compared to the local way that it was being used here, which was increasing a lot of methane gas in the atmosphere. And that's the origin, how we came up with the innovation to start this work in the Nakivale refugee camp. Yeah, and currently we are just focusing on the youth, because the people who have been doing agriculture, most of them, they are getting old, so want to bring in youth also. And in this project of Biochar, it will be the people who will be doing the work, it will be specifically the youth, because we have the land which was provided to us by Office of the Prime Minister, Department for the Refugees. So we are looking for the ways of constructing an agricultural center, which would be our training center for agriculture and other principles and the techniques of agriculture. So we are looking forward to bringing more youth so that they can become the sustainable solution to agriculture and improving the well-being of the people.
Thank you. No, it's impressive what Marius and his team are doing. Yeah, but just to ask on the biochar, out of interest, what biomass are you using to convert to biochar? So what is the feedstock? Is it the waste from the agriculture?
Yeah, so concerning that question, we have not yet launched the projects, but we are still in the initial stages. But we are planning to use the agricultural residues and also the residues from the carpentry workshops. We shall also be using the waste from woods and others, maybe the timbers, because we are going to start with the 3 canes, and they want to be trying which material produces better biochar than the other. So each kiln will be having its own material. And then after we shall be putting it in the demonstration farms, and then we check which one is better than the other, like which one is more productive than the other. But that's what we shall be using in the whole process when we start, because it's just a pilot project for 6 months.
Amazing. Thank you. I'd love to hear more, so we can exchange notes beyond this call. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Maurice. Actually, that's one of the major purposes of this call to, actually just collaborate. But it's also great to hear what you're doing, Maurice. Actually, I've not even heard of anyone doing such. Maybe they are, but here in Nigeria. So that's a sector we could actually look at. My own quick question is, obviously we know you are working with biochar and biomass. So mine is more of a social kind of question, more of a people question. Like, how do you see the youth? How are they adapting to this technology? Are they receptive to it? The older generation, how are they? They might not really be, very on board with it, but how are the young people in the community? Are they actually implementing these features? Are they excited to use it? And do they see this as something that can actually, improve their finance, improve their pockets, and take them to the next level?
Yes. So the youth and the people, the entire community is so receptive to this technology, because as we said before, we have the three kilns, and then they'll be monitored, and because they are connected directly to bioenergy and sea capsule, so it will also be certified. And the people here with the biochar that people shall be using, it will help us in one way. It will help to improve the agricultural soils. It's also help to improve the agricultural yields. And by doing that, people will also become self-empowered. And now the youth, since the youth will be directly involved in this project, they'll help in the mobilization and sensitization of the people so that this technology is taken very far. So the people here are so receptive to this technology, and they are eager to make sure it's pushed highly to other places, because it is so evident that it has a very good impact to the general community.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Maurice. That's what we love to hear, because the youth would be the drivers of any innovation or any change. Fiona, I heard you might want to ask a question, so you might want to come in here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, or I'm asking Caroline and Marius if how familiar they are with dark technologies, or any engineered carbon dioxide removal technologies.
Well, if I could jump in there. Well, as far as carbon removal technologies are concerned, I know about DAC, but at a very high level. So it's not a technology I have engaged in or had sort of been really intimate with, as opposed to the nature-based side. I know other technologies such as BECS. So that's the bioenergy, carbon capture and storage, and ocean weathering. So as far as those three are concerned, I am lost there, but I'm glad we have you to enlighten us on DAC.
Feel free to pass by our offices, and we'll let you know more about DAC and even how DAC machines work.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so concerning that technology, Marius has just a little idea about it, but he doesn't have all the details. And that's one of the limiting factor that is affecting the youth, because you can be having a few hints about something, but you don't know the whole of it in details. Because for him, he studied it, but maybe it's the old version, and then you can find probably today there are some other new things that are being included in this old technology. So, but because of these limited resources, the educative, the technological, the financial, so it's so hard for some people to keep updating themselves. Because even when we check here, we have Marius himself did ICT in secondary. We also have someone who did the electricity. We also have someone who did physics and math. But it's not because we have limited resources, we are not able to access that, but we just have a little idea about that, but we can't really say that we know it.
Thank you, Maurice. Obviously, this is one of the goals of OpenAir, to just keep on promoting all things carbon removal. across the globe, the spectrum, especially here in Africa. So either from dark or nature-based solutions like what Caroline is doing or what you guys are doing in Biochar. That's just the objective of OpenAir, to keep on promoting all things carbon removal. So nothing much from here. It's just a quick wrap up. We might also start with Caroline, then just Fiona, then just you guys, Marish. Just some seconds to say, how do you see the space where you guys are operating, either in nature based or in dark or here in Biochar? How do you see it playing out in, like, let's say 3 to 5 years time? What is what you are looking forward to most? Or what do you think would happen in your space that would have the most impact? So I'll just start with Caroline and Fiona, then Marish.
Yeah, definitely I hope to see more investments going into nature-based carbon removal activities, because as it is, and really there is no one way that will lead us to our 2050 climate goals, right? So we really need all hands on deck. So whether it's Fiona with dark, whether it's Marius with regenerative agriculture, we really need all options available, because the scientists have already sounded that alarm, the climate alarm. But speaking of nature-based carbon removals, I would love to see more investment, because Africa does have a huge potential to play a huge role in this space. Yeah, whether it's involving smallholder farmers without, of course, compromising on trade-offs, such as food security, and so on, and biodiversity. So definitely inclusion of more smallholder farmers, more youth, building of capacity for the young people, and including them actively to make decisions and to play a huge role in where the carbon market, as far as Africa is concerned, is headed. Because at least the carbon removals need to, or the carbon market really needs, as a market, needs to grow rapidly, to support the amount of investment and the amount of output we need to see from that. So there's a lot of action in the Africa space, with more alliances being formed, more initiatives being formed to bring the carbon market actors together. So I'm definitely seeing growth in this area, and Africa really rising up to its potential to be able to provide climate solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. So investments, got it. More investments, more funding, more support, not just money. Marish, we see your hand up there.
We have one of our team member who is even the head of youth department, so just has something to supplement on the point of Fiona.
Jambo tena. Yakikuwa sema na share tuongeza tu kidogo cha ile Madam Fiona namaliza sema pale, namna gani hii project itakuwa inasaidia na makazi za tunafanyaka pale. Wakiwa tukutana tunakuwa tuko na ile uwezo usagisi vagene hapa na Nakivale, tuko na ile uwezo, tuko na ile capacité, mais tuko limité sur le plan financier, matériel, même intellectuel. Wakiwa tukutana tuko limité. Mais si une fois tunaweza pata ma connexion mbalimbali za kutuconnecter na watu wa huku na wakule na wakule, na kupata marché ya carbone, tutakuwa tuko na kupunguza atmosphere, inaweza tusaidia ya kuboresha maisha yetu. Sisi watu tunafanya ile kazi ya balimaji bote en general, na communauté mzima itakuwa inasaidia na contribute kwa restoration ya klima.
Yeah, so he was just having something to add, like the life itself, like especially the area where we are working from, the life itself is not promising, so it is hard. So people can be having the innovations, people can be having that curiosity, but because of some of the limited factors, you find they are very limited to express the innovations and other factors. Yeah, that's why one of the major points would be linking the activities of the youth to the carbon market, because once the activities are connected with carbon market, even then their standards of living will be improved in one way or the other. Because as they get something from there, they also use their innovation, they also use that curiosity to think about more things and also to plan for bigger things. But now, because of some of the limited resources, because like it can be financial, it can be technological, it can be moral, because it's so fun. Most of them, they have ideas, but ideas are just getting bloated because of those limiting factors. Yes, they can become very good pioneers to climate change. They can become pioneers to durable agriculture and even the sustainable farming. But now, because of that, it becomes a very big problem.
Definitely, yes. Linking the activities of youth to, and all carbon removal and climate finance markets, that's a major goal. It will not only encourage the, reduction of carbon emissions and the fight against greenhouse gases, it will also boost, economic prosperity. And that is like one of the key focus for we here on the African continent. So thank you. That's like a massive takeaway from us. Yeah, so I'll just go on right now to Fiona for one final wrap up.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to Kenya as a country, and even Africa in general. We have a lot of smart, talented people who are very, very skilled. What is lacking is the opportunities to actualize some of these innovations that we have. So, and again, Octavia Carbon, our visions and our dreams and where we want to be in the next 5 years. Obviously, we will create these opportunities for young people to be able to actualize their ideas, and we will go further and further and further. And obviously now it goes now to also funding. We need more funding in dark companies in Africa, especially in Africa, because we, especially here in Kenya, are experiencing the effects of climate change. Like we have been watching a lot of horror stories, seeing how the death of so many livestock. People are literally hand to mouth situation. It's the situation here in Africa is very, very dire, and that's why we as the youth, we as young Africans who are experiencing these adverse effects of climate change, we are best situated to solve climate change, and that is what we are doing here at Octavia Carbon. And especially I want my children to inherit a better world, and for us to just live in a better world. Yeah.
Okay, wow, thanks, Fiona. So sorry about what's going on in Kenya and also Caroline. We saw images of like some dead wildlife in your safari. I think extreme drought. So this just shows the severity of the problem, particularly here in Africa. And all hands must be on deck to actually drive more funds, generate more investment, more awareness, more government participation, both from local and international actors into this space. And definitely, please, that's what this network is about. We at OpenAir, we are just trying to encourage, promote, advocate, and also support startups and companies like Octavia, like Ecosecurities, like Mars and his community, working in this space of carbon removal. And for sure, it's great that we all had you here, taking time out of your schedules to talk with us. On behalf of the OpenAir community, just want to thank you. Usually maybe on a monthly basis, but we have had other sessions like this on our online platform. We're on Discord. So please join us. We will definitely keep in touch. This is all amazing rules, amazing efforts that you guys are putting in, and hopefully we are able, as individuals, as companies, and as a continent to actually tap into this power of carbon removal for our pockets, for our survival, and also for the climate, and particularly, for the continent. Africa is bearing some of the massive impacts. So this is the point where we sign off. I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity.